The misconception that money is like a male kind of thing. Money is energy and it's neutral, right? It's the value that we give it. What we need to change is our perception around money. We weren't taught about money at school. We weren't taught about how to invest. The number one reason that women stay in relationships that are not working for them is because of money. A lot of women are prioritizing their money on the wrong thing. Buy the bag until you hold the LVMH shares. Right? Buy the shares first and then the bag will pay for itself.
Did your dad teach you how to invest?
No, I taught him how to invest.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Wellsome. In today's episode, I have the pleasure to have with me Natasha. Welcome to Wellsome.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And I'm going to explain you a little bit about Natasha before we're diving deep into the episode itself. So Natasha is a divorce and a financial coach, and the combination is actually a very, very interesting cocktail. And I invite her on the podcast because I think that both topics are so contemporary, and I think that women deserve to know more about, how to get like a smooth divorce, but also how to manage their finance in the best way possible. But let me actually let her speak. First of all, thank you so much for being on the podcast again.
Thank you.
And Natasha, tell me more about your journey. How did you become like a divorce coach and then you lead into the financial part? Because this is super interesting to me.
Yeah, thank you. It's been quite a journey. So I've been a coach for about 12 years now.
Yeah.
I started life coaching. I'd been through the experience of divorce myself, and I had people literally messaging me in my DMs on Instagram all the time saying, this is what I'm experiencing, what should I do? Or this is what I'm going through, I don't know if I can leave. And there is so much still, unfortunately, so much shame and stigma attached to divorce. And so in 2019, 2020, I went to someone in the UK and I did some training to become an accredited divorce coach.
Oh, interesting.
And I'd never heard of a divorce coach.
Yeah.
I wish I had one when I went through it in 2013.
So basically, so you were a life coach before, and then you went through a divorce, and after that, I assume a lot of people were asking you, how did you manage that? Yeah. And then you decided to actually take a course on how to become like a divorce coach.
Yeah, to specifically support those women who were experiencing that.
Yeah.
But the more that I did that, I realized that a lot of people who got divorced didn't need to get divorced if they'd had a relationship coach. And if you look at all the greats, whether it's like Roger Federer or Serena Williams, like they are amazing because they have coaches. But when it comes to marriage, there's this idea that, but we love each other, so we should be able to talk and make it work. We don't need someone to help us. Like we don't need a coach. And sometimes relationships break down because of that. And so I'd always say I'm the divorce coach that doesn't want anyone to get divorced. So I did further training to be able to support people in relationships as well. But the money thing came because I found that the number one reason that women stay in relationships that are not working for them or, can't leave a relationship is because of money. It's like the number one reason. And I had spent 5 years building my own 6-figure portfolio, and I was talking to friends and saying, oh, invest in this and go and invest in that, and I think this is a good idea, until someone said to me, why don't you just teach women how to invest? And I remember thinking, but I'm not an accountant.
Yeah.
I can't teach women how to invest. Turns out I can. And that's what I do now. I teach women how to invest so that they can be wealthy in 5 years, not when they're 65.
Wow. Yeah, actually your handle, it's super interesting. When I read it, I was like, wow, that's a very powerful statement. Because you're right. Like, why should we wait for our 60 or 70 when we can actually have the income that we desire now?
Yeah. And I think a big part of it is actually just almost giving women permission to believe that it's possible.
Yeah.
Because when I went online and I looked at different women who were teaching women how to invest, it was very much put your money into, an index fund and just let it compound. And when you're 65, you'll have, $1.5 million. But if you talk to a woman who's in a relationship that doesn't feel safe, she can't wait until she's 65.
Yeah.
She needs to be doing something about it now. And it's possible. It's possible because men are doing it.
Yeah.
So why can't women? That's how I felt.
So you actually touched bases like while you were talking, but I want to, underline this. And what is actually the main pattern that you found in the women you were coaching when it comes to finance and when it comes to financial freedom? What's the pattern? What's the number one issue that you always see, and how do you help them like overcome this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's two. So the first one is the women who choose to be stay-at-home moms, which is wonderful. But what they don't kind of take into consideration is that is a job.
Yeah.
A stay-at-home mom is a full-time job. In fact, you have more tabs opened when you're a stay-at-home mom than your, lawyer or finance husband probably does at work. Like you are thinking about so many different things, but they don't put the value on that they should.
Yeah.
So that's one. It's almost like, oh, I'm so lucky that I don't have to work, that I get to be a stay-at-home mom and my husband takes care of everything. My hot take on that, which is a little controversial, is that women should get some sort of stipend that's just theirs for that, so that they have the kind of account for the family, but they have something that's theirs to do whatever they want with, that no one's going to see, no one's going to judge, and no one's even going to know about. So that's kind of the one side of it.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is just women who simply don't trust themselves to do what they need to do with their money. So I've coached a lot of women who they themselves are earning six figures. They're working women. I always say to them, you have two jobs, because you have your job and then you're also going home, and that whole emotional labor side of things, you're doing all of that. That's two jobs. And then they give their money to their husbands to invest because he's better at money than I am. Like he's better at finance than I am.
So they think that they cannot really do it by themselves because they don't believe they can manage as well as the man.
Yeah. Even though some of them are like running businesses or they're like CEO of corporations, and they still give their bonus.
Really?
Yeah. You'd be surprised by how many still give their bonus to their partner to manage, just because they think they're better at it than they are.
Wow. So basically they're giving the salary to the husband in order to manage the salary they get, because they believe that even if the salary is high, they don't know how to manage it.
Yeah, if not the whole salary, but a percentage of the salary or their bonus, they would give it to their partners to invest it for them.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But do you think it's cultural a little bit? Because, for example, like I think in general, women, I don't know why, it's kind of like a stigma to talk about money and investments. And, like for men, they just sit down and they just talk about investment, money, percentages, stock market and everything. But for women, somehow, it's still something that we don't really dive deep, especially with girlfriends. It's something that we feel like, why would I talk about it? Which is like, it's curious, because this is something that we can potentially do without feeling ashamed. But on the other side, for example, I recognize that me as a European, I see that maybe in Europe, women are on the other side of the spectrum sometimes. They've been forced to be independent since early stages, like when they're 16, 17. So maybe they're not very good in managing the money anyway, because I think management and independence are different. But like we are really, really forced to just be independent. While I see, for example, more in the eastern side of the world, it's more like the husband is taking care, or the man is taking care, the father is taking care, while the girl or the women just have to relax and take care of the family. So do you see the shift, and do you see this characteristic when you're coaching women, that culture sometimes plays a role?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Definitely. Culture plays a massive role. It's that cultural conditioning that certain cultures have with regards to what a woman's role is and what she should be talking about. And there's still, it's so funny you said that, because I was recently visiting my parents. They live in West Africa, and I had some people of like my mum's friends come up to me and say, "Oh, I see all your Instagram content, Natasha, and it's so nice that you're doing all of that. Did your dad teach you how to invest?"
Really?
And I'm like, no, actually.
Did your dad teach you how to invest?
No, I taught him how to invest. My dad teaches me a lot of things, and he's more into real estate, and so is my brother. But the stock market is my thing, and so I will send them voice notes and I'll send them messages and say, "Hey, I think you should look at this. I think maybe you should invest in that." And they're like, "You just do it for us." And I think that's the misconception, that money is like a male kind of thing. But money is energy, and it's neutral, right? It's the value that we give it. And so in answer to your question, yes, the cultural conditioning around, who should be talking about money, who should be managing money is still very much, spoken about with the idea that men are the ones who should be handling it,
Yeah.
or that. And look, when I first started creating content, I had a moment of like, okay, how do I create this and still be feminine? How do I create this and still come across as, not trying to be in a male
Pretend. Yeah.
and I think it's possible. In fact, I say to women all the time.
It is. I love your page, actually. It's very inspiring.
Thank you. I'm like, it's actually a real feminine thing. Who do you think controls the money? Right? Most of the time, like the person who is buying all the things for the house, taking care of their kids, like all of that. Most of the time, it might be the man earning it in some cases and the woman spending it.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that are spending it. So who
Yeah.
has an idea of where the money is going in the household? It's the woman. So at what point did we decide that they can't be the ones that, make it grow?
Yeah. So why do you think, like, okay, we talk about culture, but you said that most of the time, the reason why women are not financially independent, or maybe they think they cannot, is because they believe that they cannot handle. So how much believe and, really believe in what you're doing plays a big role in, receiving the money. Like, because I give you my personal example. In the past, I was someone who was totally terrible in managing money. I was just overspending without even looking. I was very young, but I was very clueless about the concept of money, because for me it was a concept that was really abstract. No one taught me. I was just like, okay, I have this, I have to manage myself. But because I was young and I was not interested in managing them, for me it was a very abstract thing. I was just like, okay, I just give it. But underneath, because I did a lot of therapy and a lot of work, I just realized that the reason why I was maybe spending more, despite the fact that I didn't know how to manage them, but we touch base this later, it's because I felt I was unworthy to receive it. Because even when I was working as a consultant, and I had a lot of clients in fashion, because I was in fashion before, that were underpaying. I thought in my mind, yeah, it makes sense that they're underpaying me. Yeah, of course, because I'm young, because I don't have experience, because I'm this. But I was diminishing myself so much that I feel that was the reason why I was overgiving instead of receiving. So my question is, how much the belief plays a role when it comes to money? Because you said money is energy. Yeah.
And you're not alone. That was me too. I was always overgiving. I remember years ago, I had a client who actually said to me, like, it's in her benefit to just pay less. And she said to me, you're undercharging, like, severely. And I'm like, you're telling me this?
Oh, that's beautiful. She was honest.
She was very honest. It is all about our mindset and our belief. And actually, when I start any course, the very first module is always money mindset, because you can't begin to go down the route of learning how to invest or understanding money if you don't understand how you feel about money and look at where your beliefs came about when it comes to money. So, what were the things you heard? What were the things you saw? What were the energies you picked up when you were younger that led you to hold a belief? So in your case, that I'm not worthy to receive it. In mine, it was that you have to work really, really hard, for money.
I had this phase too, actually. It makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not sort of linear, as they say.
Yeah.
Like, you have waves. I've been working on my money mindset since 2018, and I will still discover new things, because they say new level, new devil. And as you level up,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
New level, new devil.
level,
I
new
love
devil.
that. I've never heard of it.
Because as you level up, there will be a new thing, and you're like, oh,
To work on, yeah.
To work on. And so it's a constant work in progress. I might, facilitate classes on money mindset, but that doesn't mean I'm not constantly working on my own money mindset at the same time.
Of course. And what do you say, what's the main mistake that you've seen in women when it comes to management? Not money, not receiving money, but managing money. What's the number one mistake that you see that you're like, no, this is something we have to work on?
I think a lot of women are prioritizing their money on the wrong things.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. If you look at social media, and we were talking about this earlier,
Yeah.
right? Marketing these days, people use, going into Dubai Mall or going somewhere and being like, look at all the things I can buy. I just went into LV and dropped 100,000 dirhams or whatever. And then the people watching that think, oh, I want to make money to be able to go into LV and drop 100,000
Yeah.
dirhams. And what I'm trying to bring it back to is, what about the freedom it gives you? What about the time that it gives you? How does it feel inside of you to
Yeah.
be able to make choices without having to worry about money? And instead, buy or invest in an appreciating asset rather than a depreciating asset.
Yeah.
Don't buy the bag until you hold the LVMH shares, right? Buy the shares first, and then the bag will pay for itself with your dividends, or if the share price goes up,
Yeah.
then you can buy the bag for free.
Yeah. So very fascinating, actually. Okay, as you mentioned, the shares and the investments. Okay, let's say that I'm a woman who has like a salary that can potentially invest in order to make it double or to make smart decisions. What's the number one advice that you will give me? So, for example, treat me as if I'm your client.
All right.
Give me the main pillars that normally you work on.
Okay. So the first thing I would say is make sure that you have any high interest debt paid off. So you shouldn't be investing if you have like really high interest debt. So pay that off. The second thing is you need to ensure that you have a 6-month buffer of sorts.
Okay.
So if you lose your job, or if there's, look at the current, time in the region and what people are experiencing now with their jobs. So it's really, really important to have some sort of safety net under you that you can tap into. And after that, I would say whatever you have that you can invest it. So there's a lot of people who want to invest to help them pay off that debt, but because the stock market can be so volatile, it can go either way.
Do you believe in the stock market?
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. And in fact, I say to people that never has there been like a better time to be investing in the stock market, because the growth now, it's like we haven't seen before. Before, maybe so many more people know about it now, whereas before it would take a lot longer for a company to make those, hundreds and thousands of % return. And now companies are doing it, a lot quicker. If you look at NVIDIA, it's the first company that hit 5 trillion in market cap. Like, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
And that only happened last year or earlier this year. So definitely the stock market.
So for like our women that they don't even know what stock market is, what is stock market?
So the stock market is basically a marketplace where you can go to, a virtual marketplace where you can go to and buy a piece of a company. So you can buy a piece of a company so even if you only hold one share, you hold that tiny bit of that company. And the stock market, and obviously there are different, areas for it. So you can go to, the New York Stock Exchange, or you can go to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So there's different stock markets, but the overall stock market is the market where all the public companies are listed, not
And
private
you
companies.
can choose the field you want to invest in, for example?
So you can, depending on what your risk appetite is, depending on how much money you have to invest, you can choose to invest in different things. So there's so many ways you can divide it. You can choose that, I want to invest in growth companies, or I want to invest in more stable companies, or you can say I want to invest in a sector like the defense sector or the healthcare sector or the energy sector, or you can say I want to invest based on region. So for me personally, I focus on the US stock market. There's a lot of people who only focus on the Indian stock market because they see India as a very fast-growing economy. Personally, even if it's a fast-growing economy, you've got the rupee to the dollar, which could just drop so quickly that you lose 30% of your money in 1 year. So that's not for me. So, there's so many ways to go about how you invest in the stock market.
Interesting. So first point, you would say, make sure that you have enough savings in case something major happens. Can be like a global crisis, can be maybe you're losing your job. So you recommend to have those savings. So at least for 6 months, your spendings and your lifestyle is covered.
Yes.
The second you mentioned is to, you said to invest in the stock market. And also you were mentioning about be mindful in what you're spending if you don't have like still like a crazy capital where you can risk it. Correct.
Yes, you have to understand what you're investing for. So if you are someone who wants to invest in the short term, like you want the money out to buy a home in like
Yeah.
3 to 5 years, you wouldn't go for something that's so volatile, because suppose it goes down, you have to be able to hold it until it goes back up again, right? You don't want to lose money
Yeah.
on that. Whereas if you're someone who is younger and you have more time on your hands and you want to invest in something that you're not worried about looking at for 15 to 20 years, how you invest would be quite different. So
Yeah.
it really depends on what your goals are,
Yeah.
and your risk appetite.
Yeah, interesting. Is there, like, for example, I'm sure that you have clients that they have different background. You mentioned before that you had also like CEO and entrepreneurs, but maybe you always differentiate, and you have also people that maybe they don't have an income yet and they don't know where to start. So how do you treat maybe a client who doesn't have an income? She wants to be financially independent. And how do you treat actually the CEO? And do they have things in common?
They have a lot in common.
Which is so fascinating, actually.
But it's more the mindset that's in common than the ability to actually invest, if that makes sense. Like, we think we're alone with our thoughts a lot of the time. You know, when we have a feeling about money or a frustration or anything like that, we think we're the only ones who are experiencing that, and we're the only ones who are going through that. What I love about the group, because I do a group coaching program for the investing, what I love about it is when we do the money mindset part and people start sharing some of their limiting beliefs around money or some of the things they saw growing up, to see those kind of faces look at each other and be like, oh yeah, okay, me too, you know? And that's such a...
it gives you relief, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, it's relief, because it's like, I'm not alone in my feelings about money. I'm not the only one who, you know, worries about it. I'm not the only one who thinks I'm not like worthy of it or good enough to invest or whatever it is that person's belief is. That's, that togetherness in that is beautiful.
And how would you treat the person that has to start from, okay, let's start from this scenario. How would you treat a girl who comes to you and say, listen, I'm in maybe like a very bad relationship, or maybe I'm in a family that, you know, they don't let me express myself and they don't let me earn something, but I have to earn my freedom. How would you treat this client?
So I'd ask her what modes of income she has at the moment, right? And we're in a time and place where actually it's almost like a time to equalize. There are so many women building what they call faceless businesses on Instagram.
True.
Right? You can build a business from your bedroom with absolutely no one in your household knowing that you're building that business. But my first question would be, does that person even have a bank account? Because if she's going to monetize her Instagram account, she has to have somewhere for the money to go to. And I recommend that every woman has a bank account that's solely in their name. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, another point to consider.
So that they can control the money. There's no point having a bank account that someone else can just empty if they had to. And so little things like that. It seems so obvious, but you'd be surprised by how many people just don't have those things. Because
I was about to say, you read my mind. I was about to say, like, maybe it seems like we're talking about obvious stuff, but it's not true, because everyone has different scenarios, and you don't know how many people I know that they don't have bank accounts. They just, someone is managing for them. So if they want to buy something, they always have to ask. So it's not that far-fetched what we're saying. And that's why I actually wanted to ask you. So yeah, first of all, you will recommend to have like this independency when it comes to money flow and have an account. And then, you were saying that actually nowadays it's very easy to be creative in a way that you can actually, earn in different ways, even with social media.
And then once once they actually have a little bit of money put away that they can start investing, I would always say for someone like that, start investing in something that's relatively safe. I say relatively because obviously it is still the stock market, but if you put it in like an ETF, which is an exchange traded fund, which is basically like a basket of companies.
Okay.
So one very popular one is the S&P 500, which is basically the top 500 companies in the US. And it's a little bit of the top 500 companies and it's in a basket. So it's like buying a basket of fruit versus buying just bananas or just apples.
Yeah.
And they can buy it in something like that because an ETF, which tracks the S&P 500, over the last 30 years, like on average, has given investors back about 10 or 11%
Wow, it's a
per
lot.
year. And it's not a lot.
Okay.
Well, no, you're right. It is a lot, but that's another point I really wanted to make. When I meet women randomly, sometimes at a bar, and they find out what I do, one of the questions I always
But
ask
it's so
them,
interesting because as I don't know about this, I'm genuinely like interested to know what you think because I don't know much about stock market. So the fact that I'm thinking is a lot, and you told me no, it's not a lot. Like again, you give me something that can like amplify, I would say, my knowledge about it, and eventually just I don't know, just to think in a different way,
yeah, but you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone. Most people think that's a good amount. And in many ways it is, especially if you're going to leave it in there for many years and it compounds, it will be a significant
I would
amount.
say also for a girl that never invested and never seen their own money, I would say that as a start, it might be good. Might be a good start.
As a start, it might be good. I think what we need to change is our perception around money. Okay?
Yeah.
We weren't taught about money at school. We weren't taught about how to invest. We were told that you worked hard, you went to university, you got a job, you earned, you saved, you put it in the bank, and you were happy with sort of like your 3 to 5% interest. And that's what many, many people still believe, right? But I'm like, okay, let's look at how much banks charge when you go and get a mortgage or when you borrow money, and then let's look at how much they give you back when you lend, and so or when you leave your money in the bank account. They don't add up, and all that money in the middle is being made by the bank.
Yeah.
And so there's this idea, like I said, one of my things when I meet women and they find out what I do, I always say to them, what would you be happy with as an annual return? I've never found a woman who's told me more than 10%. Most of them say 7 to 8. And never, not,
Wow.
yeah, no one's ever said to me. And the NASDAQ, which is like also, you can buy an ETF for the NASDAQ, it's an index fund. Even that, over the last 30 years, on average, has given about 17%. So they are the tech stocks. So they're in itself. As a base. Not every year, because some years, obviously, like after the 2008 crash, it took the NASDAQ a very long time, which brings us back to what is your risk appetite? How long can you leave your money in there? Because it took it a very long time to recover. It did recover. It will always recover. But my point is that in itself is far more than even the 10%. And then if you go into stock picking, you're looking at returns of far higher. I think women need to just have a bit more like audacity when it comes to stock market.
Yeah.
And I'm mindful of how I say this because A, I'm not a day trader, and B, I'm not trying to get anyone to gamble or risk their money away. I will always caveat what I say with it is based on what your risk tolerance is and what your risk appetite is. But I need women to know that the opportunities are there because they don't even realize they exist.
Yeah.
They don't even realize that there are people making 60, 70, 100% in less than 6 months on their money.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's possible.
Wow. Very powerful. I'm very happy that you brought up this because I think, I absolutely, I can relate. Even me sometimes when I did an exercise with my business coach, and she asked me, what's your ideal salary for the future? Like considering what you're seeding. And then I was just like, okay, this, and she was like, really?
Yeah.
With all the things that you were, really? I was like, no, come on. I was like, okay. And then I felt like, okay, I can be honest and then I can dream. And she was like, yeah, that possible? It's not even that far-fetched. I mean, it's
Yeah.
totally possible.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
have those conversations with women when they're talking about leaving a relationship, and they often say, okay, well, I've calculated what I need and what my children need. And actually, I don't need anything. I don't need anything. My children need, and this is the amount. And I'm always like, whatever your amount is, double it. That's really where your starting point is, because they'll almost underestimate. And again, I'll speak to so many women who are going through problems in their relationship, and the first thing they'll always say is, I just need him to give me money for the children. Like, I'll manage myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why?
And also, can I tell you something? I remember when I was kind of like in a phase that, no, I'm not going to charge a lot. Because back then I was coaching, still in fashion, because I became a health coach. But then before I was a fashion coach, like a fashion consultant, not a coach. And I remember that I used to think, because I'm in Europe, I cannot charge that much. So I was literally charging the bare minimum, I would say. Because again, I thought I'm young. But European standards are different compared to maybe US and Middle East, blah, blah, blah. All this limiting belief to a point that, of course, I was attracting people that for them it was so difficult to even give me that money. And of course, because even them, they were very tight with their money, even the workflow was completely difficult, was so difficult. So I think when you align with a very not abundant energy, you're going to receive a lot of luck.
Yeah. Because Dior is European.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. French.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and now thinking back then, I was like, for the type of work I did, and I'm comparing, and I know how much girls right now they're asking. I'm like, oh my God, look at myself. Like I was literally asking the bare minimum. Anyway, like a beautiful topic to touch on, and for sure, like we have to, speak up for women, and then say, women, please, girls, dream big.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. When it comes to actually financial freedom, when can a woman can really say, I am financially freedom? What are the, let's say, what are the bases for financial freedom where I can say I am financial free?
So that's a tough one, because it's going to be different for different people. And it's also going to be different based on the lifestyle that you want to live. But typically, they say that if you earn a certain amount, or you have a certain amount invested, and you can draw down like a certain percentage of what you have, like 4 to 5%, depending on what you need to live, then you'll be financially free, because essentially you will be living off the interest of your your portfolio, or of your assets, or whatever it is. And that's the point you'll get to be financially free. It takes a lot to get there.
Yeah.
Like I always say to people, don't be fooled by this. Like, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is more about, it's more a journey that you go on in order to, build your wealth. But being financially free, that does that does take time. Somehow we celebrate the people who are like 30 under 30 for Forbes, or 40 under 40, and that's great. But overall, I think people, if you're financially free, does that mean you're not going to work? But you might still want to work. So what does it mean to you? Does it mean that you don't have to work for money, but you still want to work to enjoy it? Like, it's so subjective. But I think when you get to a point where you feel like, if I wanted to stop working today, would I have enough money to to take care of all my needs? That to me, that's kind of where financial freedom lies.
Do you also teach women how to prepare their retirement?
As part of a stock market portfolio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, because this is another part that it's more projected in the future, that maybe people, I don't know if, I'm sure you had experienced this with clients, and maybe when they see a lot of money coming in, maybe they have the tendency to get excited and maybe overspending without maybe thinking that there is a long future in front of them.
Exactly. And actually, there's a huge money influencer online, and she recently put a post out about how she reached financial freedom before her 30th birthday. And everyone was obviously congratulating her, and I thought that's really wonderful. I really am so happy for her. But she hasn't had a family yet. She hasn't, and I'm sure, she would just change her drawdown and end up being able to accommodate that. But I think as you add different life scenarios into your life, what you need to live completely changes, right? Someone taking care of just themselves is very different to someone taking care of two children.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we covered the scenario of, let's say, a woman that doesn't have financial income and independency. And what about the CEOs and the entrepreneurs that you coached? Like, what is the main common ground that you see in them when it comes to money management?
Yeah, it just comes back a lot of the time to the same idea that the man in my life knows how to handle it better. Like, he understands the stock market. And maybe he does. Maybe he does understand it better now because he takes an interest by reading the Financial Times or seeing what's, happening online and following it. But he only knows more because he reads more.
Yeah.
And you can do the same thing. I remember speaking to one woman and she was like, but where is the time? And so we sat down and looked at where her time was. And in all the kind of emotional labor that goes kind of unseen and unheard in the house, she was doing the bulk of it. Yeah. And so he had a lot of time on his hands because he wasn't having to do all of that. And sometimes we can look at men, and this is not me taking a stab at men, like I love men, but this is me saying, look at your household and just kind of take an audit of what's being done, because sometimes it may look like you have a partner who's very hands-on, and that's wonderful, but the little things like, is there milk in the fridge? Is my daughter's favorite cereal there? Have I thought about the fact that she needs a yellow t-shirt because on Friday they have to wear a yellow t-shirt to school? Have I thought that it's World Book Day in 2 weeks and I haven't ordered an outfit? Have I bought the birthday present for that child? Have I written the card? Have I wrapped the birthday present? Oh, it's my helper's birthday. Have I thought about what I'm going to get her? Have I got the cake? Do we have candles at home? I mean, it's endless.
Yeah.
And who's taking care of all of that?
Woman. Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that there are small actions, but they require a lot of time.
They require a lot of time. Like I said, they require a lot of tabs open. Yeah. And, again, another sort of like controversial thing that I have to think of, that I have to say is that, people often refer to women as gold diggers, right? And I'm like, I have yet to meet a man who can do the job that a woman can do as well as she can do it. Like, whereas I've met lots of women who have full-time jobs and solo parent their children. Yeah. And I've not yet met a man who does that. Yeah. And so how are they the ones, who are the gold diggers? They're able to do so much. It just comes down to that conditioning. What have they been told they can and cannot do, and where is their kind of value at? And a big part of anything in life, not just money, is just raising your value. Where can you raise your value so that you even believe that you are worthy of all the amazing things out there?
Oh, amen. Thank you so much for the last sentence. It's so powerful. I have a question for you personally. Did your financial management change before and after having like a child? You have one child?
I have one. Yeah. I have one. Sort of. So in my situation, before I had him, I had stopped working and I had a partner who I, assumed would take care of things. After I went through the process of divorce, my child's father decided that he was just not going to be in our lives. And so when my child was 3, I suddenly had full solo responsibility for this child.
Wow, completely.
100%. And I just remember thinking, how am I going to send him to university?
Yeah.
And he was 3. Like, obviously, I didn't have to worry about that then. But I think that's where sort of the journey towards all of this started, even if not actively. I think I was like, okay, if that's where he needs to be, that's still 15 years away. What do I need to do to get there? And my first kind of way to move forward was to hustle and hustle hard. So it's like I said, my limiting belief at the time was that I had to work really, really hard and that no one could help me. I had to do everything on my own because this was my responsibility. Like, I chose to leave and this was now my responsibility. And so at one point I was working 3 jobs and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
3 jobs and then still being there for him because he was very young, and I was utterly exhausted. And that's when I started kind of looking into money mindset and thinking, why do I think this? Where
Yeah.
are these beliefs coming from? Why do I feel this way? Why every time I think about his university fees, which are so far away, I get this tightness in my chest? Like, oh my God, you know, I was going into like fight or flight mode,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to feel like that anymore.
Absolutely.
I wanted money to feel like something that just flowed to me, that I could attract. I wanted to feel abundant.
Yeah.
And it's easy when you're in that situation, and I did it myself, to almost put yourself as the victim.
Yeah.
Oh no, but he did this to me, and he decided not to be in our lives, and woe me, and all of that. No one's coming to rescue you.
Yeah.
Right? We have to change our mindset. And when we're able to change our mindset, it's like the entire world around us changes.
Yeah.
Everything then just flows. And my life completely changed when I took personal responsibility for my situation and stopped, playing the victim, stopped blaming everyone else. Everything changed.
Wow. First of all, I'm so impressed about your journey, and I'm very inspired, because the fact that you turned this situation into something that not only helped you but also your child, and not only, but now you're inspiring women to do the same. For me, it's something amazing. So congratulations. I'm very, very inspired.
you.
And I would actually close the episode in a special way. I wanted to ask you one misconception women have around money that they have to drop, and one, I would say, affirmation, and one message that you want to share with women when it comes to financial freedom, also overall mindset.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one is one misconception around money, right? That money is a male thing. That money and investing and finance is a man's domain. I think women need to drop that.
Yeah.
A affirmation or something you can say to yourself.
Motivation. Yeah.
Yeah, motivation. It depends on where on your scale you are, but even just something like money flows effortlessly to me.
Yeah.
Or there's money all around me.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I always say to women when they're like, oh, I remember doing a money mindset class once, and this lady was talking about how she didn't have money, and I'd been to her home, and I said to her, you think that the money's not coming to you. I was like, look at the artwork around your home. Look at the diamond earrings that you're wearing. Look at the car that you get into. Look at the business class flights that you take every time you travel. All of that is abundance. Like, money is not simply money in your bank account. There is money all around you. Notice it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Express your gratitude for the money that already exists, and then more money will flow towards you. Right? So that's the affirmation.
Perfect.
And the third one you said was...
there's not a third one, but now that we are on it, maybe like something that you really encourage women to do, like the number one advice that you would give to women that they want to start maybe the journey of getting into financial freedom or management, or simply they want to be your next client.
Yeah. So if I do run a 6-week program that teaches women how to invest if they're interested in something like that. It's very much for beginners. But if someone wants to start on their own, I would say literally schedule some time. So in your calendar, go and put in, like, even if it's just 30 minutes on a Thursday evening, once you've put your kids to bed, or if you don't have children, just once you've had dinner, schedule it as if it's a date with yourself. Like, make it important. Go onto YouTube and just Google, teach me the A to Z's of finance.
Yeah.
And just spend 30 minutes a week. Like, you don't even have to, just starting to understand what some of the acronyms are when people drop all these acronyms.
Yeah.
And just understand what the acronyms are. Like,
Yeah.
let your first month be decoding, like, the jargon of financing, of finance rather. And then, add to that. Like, people think I want to go from A all the way to K in one shot. And it doesn't work like that. Like, you have to go from A to B to C, and then maybe you can jump from C to F. But you have to take those baby steps, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's simple as 30 minutes a week. And
Yeah.
everybody has the time for 30 minutes a week. And if you say, well, I don't have the time, find a podcast, go for a walk, when you're walking to your Pilates class, stick your
Yeah.
AirPods in and just listen to 15 minutes
Yeah.
twice a week.
Yeah.
That's your 30 minutes there.
Yeah.
Like, just start.
Just start. Natasha, where people can find you?
So I'm on all social media platforms, but the one I'm most active on is Instagram, and it's at Natasha Coaches.
Perfect. Natasha, thank you so much for your powerful, knowledge that you share with us today. And guys, I'll see you on next episode. If you have any question for me or Natasha, please comment down below and don't forget to subscribe.